In Health Watch now, as vaccinations continue across the country and businesses and other locations open nationwide, some people are actually starting to feel a little anxious about socializing again or resuming activities in person. Scientists even have a name for this phenomenon. It's called re-entry anxiety. And a new report by the American Psychological Association says nearly half of the U.S. population may be feeling those effects as the country returns to normal. So I want to bring in psychiatrist Dr. Daniel Bober to help us break all of this down. Doctor, thank you for joining us. You know, we have spent a lot of time during the last year talking about kind of the negative impacts of the coronavirus and how, you know, people are isolated and it's depressing to many people. We haven't spoken a lot about you know, some of the sort of side effects of the pandemic that kind of worked for people, that they didn't have the commute anymore, so their work-life balance is a little bit different, or, you know, maybe they're actually not social people, and so the pandemic offered a way to still stay involved without actually having to be there in person. And now a lot of people are talking about going back to normal. So why are so many adults anxious about returning to in-person interactions post-COVID?
Well, you know, the pandemic happened for the last year and it turned our lives upside down, and we had to readjust our thermostat, if you will, to the new normal. Many people were working from home, kids were doing online school, and so we sort of lost a little bit of those social skills because we weren't really interacting with our normal social network. And so now that we have to come back into the world, you would think that we would all be happy, but it actually provokes a lot of fear in people because now they have to readjust yet again. We know there's been increases in depression, anxiety, insomnia. And so now adjusting to this new normal is actually quite fear-provoking for a lot of people.
Wow, I guess I'm thinking about all my list of topics that you talk about when you are sort of keeping all that surface conversation we actually haven't had to have at the water cooler or the coffee machine.
Exactly.
How's the weather? Who won the game last night? All that stuff. So, you know, I can see that people feeling anxious about kind of whether or not they're up to all that social interaction. I'm also wondering if there are kind of other mental health issues, either anxiety or others. I imagine, you know, people are still concerned about their health and exposure to whether it's the coronavirus or anything else. I think we've all become way more sensitive to the impact that the environment could have on our physical health. So are people sort of anxious about whether or not, you know, we're over this pandemic and whether or not it's safe to go out? And are there other sort of mental health issues that you're hearing about?
Well, I've definitely seen increases in depression and anxiety and insomnia. People, you know, if they were drinking a glass of wine to go to sleep, now they're using a bottle of wine. So it's important to remember that anxiety is maintained by, you know, uncertainty and driven by fear. In other words, avoidance is what we want to avoid, so to speak. So the only way to really get past it is to put ourselves outside our comfort zone so that we habituate to reduce the anxiety.
Just do it.
Absolutely. And you know what? You have to think about going into a swimming pool. You don't have to dive into the deep end. You just dip your foot into the water. So instead of going back into an office full of people, maybe start off slow, maybe ride a bus once a week or go for a walk with a friend. You don't have to dive right in. Just take it one step at a time.
I like that. The only thing to fear is fear itself, right? And once you actually do these things, it's not so bad. And hopefully, Doctor, there's some things about the pandemic that we can actually keep, the things that made, at least for some people, their life a little bit better. And post the normal, the next normal, the new normal will be better for everyone. Dr. Bober, thank you.
My pleasure.